Okay, so wawala ngiriwa menyada na vetiva grass. So riwa menyada na galara, Iya, galara. So datou ina lendu sa te vula via na wane ka fame. Mitindane na ngona ni lauto vimaka. Atana wa bimbita ivale. What I'm telling them, back in the early days of sugarcane farming, it was a requirement that all farmers planted vetiva. It's for soil stabilization. So we are trying to emphasize that and do it in here as we started to venture into the 1 acre farm, semi-commercial.
Last week we learned about the organization that Semi and Janet Lothawa co-founded to help rural women artisans. The couple have dedicated their lives to ensuring Rise Beyond the Reef continue to help better the quality of life for these women and their families, even in times like the pandemic. Tonight we're heading to the province of Mba, where a host of partner communities are nestled between the mountain peaks and valleys of Tekina Yakete, where the Rise team work. Tonight we witness the resilience of these women and share in their wonderful experience.
This is where I went to school.
Oh, okay. So you grew up here?
I grew up in boarding school, class 1. I remember standing next to my suitcase. I was as tall as my suitcase. Yeah, but back in the days we used to walk.
The Yakete district is located within the Mba catchment area in western Viti Levu, the largest island in Fiji. This is one of the largest remaining areas containing pristine Fijian forests, populated by indigenous communities that lead subsistence lifestyles and live off the land. The region's crafting knowledge is enhanced via women who marry into the tribe from outer Fijian islands, helping to serve as leaders who teach beginner and mid-skill artisans. RBTR currently works with 10 communities in the Mba province, within a total population of approximately 850 people. A lack of access to education, healthcare, and markets, as well as the poor road conditions and isolated natural disasters, are among some of the challenges that these communities face.
So the road may seem okay, but during rainy season, it's really hard. Yeah. The carrier fare double because only transport that can come up here are 4-wheel drive. Not a small one, and water level here goes up high, so it requires a higher vehicle to cross from here.
On our drive up to Yakete, we stopped over at a few different farms along the way.
Things that is surrounding here that they can use, and also in our community, a lot of the women, they're very low on iron, they're anemic, and part of our wellness thing is for Saijan to start introduce it into their food. They say COVID is about your immune system and how strong it is. So first one, this is the Risombe.
Our next stop was the farm for Tukuraki village. The village itself was a further 15-minute drive away, so one of the challenges for this village was transportation.
So this is for Tukuraki village 1 acre farm. It's we passed the Risombu and now we're in Tukuraki. This area has many potential, but the community we have to go by what crops they're familiar with, and the planting material that is readily available in here. Duruka is something that this community already have, and they know how to take care of it, and they have the planting material. So we're thinking to plant Duruka in here, in this farm, to at least be able to supply and produce 1 ton.
Wow.
To supply the market, whether it'll be overseas. I think there's already an existing pathways under the quarantine bilateral agreement to Australia, New Zealand, and things in the US. I think it's fresh, frozen, and canned.
Yeah.
Those are the potential for Duruka. So this is where they will be planting. Like I said, the communities that we work with, like as you see in Ba, as we left Ba or in the Sambeto Valley, they farm on flat land.
Yeah.
Here, communities farm on hillside.
Yeah.
That's why it's hard not often you see them in participating in semi-commercial agriculture farm. If they do, it'll be cattle farming, because they can graze on the hillside. But in terms of other agriculture product, very limited. So now, when we are starting this, they have to look for a site that is a bit flat, that it's easy to cultivate. So that's why you see this piece of land is far away from the village, because it's the only flat area that they think they can cultivate for semi-commercial produce.
The original location of Tukuraki village had been destroyed due to landslide, something they needed to ensure wouldn't happen again.
The village, a family got killed in that landslide. So their village, it's where they've been relocated to.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So when this community left, they left their old village site, and also they left their farm that was around the old village site. So, for sometimes they were like refugees in their own land. I know that term is a bit harsh, but when we used to came here in the early days of our program, they lived along the roadside. You'll see their house is still along the road before we arrive at the village. But the government finally relocated them to their new village site. We're thankful for the government for that.
Farming on the hillside, competition with other farmers, and uncontrolled fires are also some of the problems they face.
Members of the community have lost their jobs, and they moved back to the village. And that's the great thing about agriculture. No other industry can absorb them, but the land can absorb them, and they can come and establish whatever their livelihoods are. But again, they try to come and compete with the existing farmers in here. Yes, and a lot of them, this is because, like I said, for farming on the hillside, land clearing, it's hard. They may just start off clearing a very small area for farming, but fire spills out and it burns. When we brought the bulldozer up here, we already communicated to the 8 villages that are along in here. Rise Beyond The Reef is bringing the bulldozer to prepare the 1 acre for semi-commercial farm. If whoever wants, it's $140 an hour or $70 for half an hour to have their farm cleared.
Yeah.
So a lot of people start to save up money. So the women, they came all the way from Dirisombo to Kuraki, Yalopo, early this morning. There's a 3-ton truck that took them through here up to Nalatawa.
Coming up after the break, we arrive in Yakete and get to planting. Realizing the dire need for better roads and infrastructure for these rural communities and farmers, government authorities have now stepped in to assist. The Fiji Roads Authority have stepped in to upgrade the Nanuku to Nalatawa road access, a task that has certainly not been easy considering the remote location of these villages. And of course, we just had to stop over and say hello to the friendly local goats along the way. We found out that the locals leave salt on these tree stumps for the goats to enjoy, resulting in them being quite friendly to humans. And well, they seem to be more comfortable around Semi than me. Smart goats, they know their locals. It was also fun to visit the only spot in the area with proper internet connection. Semi tells us it's definitely a hotspot for the locals, and the recharge cards lying around the ground agree. We finally arrived at Yakete, where 9 different surrounding villages had gathered to welcome us with a sevu-sevu and joined hands to toil the land for a sustainable future for themselves.
na ni ko ni lala ni ko ma mi tola ber no to ke batai o ilea nei so le di songo so na Ep4 Pacific Island Farmers Network o Rise Beyond The Reef e sema tu ni songo ni Ep4 ni songo ni tamatan daw tete na wasa Pacifica tamdiang ai biti tonga sa moa o na tuana na wasa Pacifica nangona la mayado ke na mati na COVID-19 na libo na vivisa o dula may sotaga o Rise Beyond The Reef na liako ni pingo rabi libo tati na daga niling ta songo na market in Sarabanoa ta songo bata na lindo market in daga niling tamoy ko na pingo rabi ni Rise Beyond The Reef men sa focus in agriculture tanangona ko na kanga punto ang kabuto nangona na iboli na kwando men ramen na Sarabanoa sa tabondo men na Sarabanoa sa pondo nga na iboli agriculture produce lato New Zealand di Australia lago to na bise mati ni bingo rabi ni dada ni Ep4 men mega na Fiji TV me la may documentary na lendu sasang how are people coping and how have they innovate in this tough times we are going through so on that we got focus in the initiative ni tigino Yakete for us to shift from subsistence farming na law wali mo telo bonasue mendo sa ula bena semi-commercial not commercial but semi-commercial agriculture ako do irigo to na dada ni katabila na 1 acre per village me law ke na kwa na kwanti na law niya ke ko na kwa na ponto na kabuka tato di do vanu ni tu na limbasa in market nan di lo to ka sa oti levun tamatar stamba da tu e affecting na lentu produce that we sell in Lotoka market because of the high rate of unemployment in the tourism sector so that's why we are starting to shift into the semi-commercial for produce that go through overseas hagi ba bibi mo tanay na kini na wala na bito ka mo na momo and la mito ko nito na tina I'm thanking the men for supporting the women in this new initiative and like we always say at Rise Beyond The Reef, when the women in the community thrive, when women thrive, the community will thrive.
The planting materials were laid out and ready to hit the soil.
So, nakwadinatara na kaya bimbi melaw sila bati mga nitindane le na bona sibiara ko tumay we no tirabo-rabo we are planting on the hillside. If you have seen all of the areas that we cleared, it's on the slope. And allow sila mata na India. Bagtana da. Iya ngone tau na lu na wai tau do la mai we mata ni ba to slow down runoff. Tindane na ngone wai ngone law di tau boto na lu 15 minutes. Oh na wai sa sibia sarang So na kwanti na law niya we mga dimbite so na maniwa mga chicken maniwa sa pig maniwa ilaman na runoff ngi boom washes it away mandundane so na di lolo ba tiambo to matani de wir lolo fresh crop yali second crop sa asio balta na nutrients out wa ko ndi na tara me na slow down ta ginya so ena lawe matani wa mamutulaw na simben law tana ko first things first.
The first step was to plant the vetiver grass. We made a straight line formation at the bottom of the slope and started planting.
Line. 1 meter apart. Tumay. Gusto mo matapos na ako na?
Siya mo kaya?
Wawa.
My name is Vilmena Ratu. I come from Tukurak village. I'm the coordinator of Tukurak village. First of all, I would like to thank the Rise Beyond The Reef for being supporting us for a long time. It's about 6 to 7 years now. Starting from the time when we are hit by the Hurricane Winston, especially Tukuraki, we all know around the world it's a landslide village. So we got a relocation village now. So at the moment we are staying in the new village now. During that time, we face a lot of problem because source of income in Tukuraki is farming. And when we are hit by the landslide, it's a very big problem. We face a lot of problem for the farmers, and especially the individual families. We face a lot of problem like marketing, and on top of that, transportation, the road condition. So we have to hire the transport for going to the market. Before, it's a lot of root crops and vegetables. So when the Rise Beyond the Reef help us a lot, so we see that they help us a lot, very much. Especially we women's, because women's every time we face a lot of problems because we are looking after the kids, and we have to donate for school items and church. Plenty things we used to donate, and when the Rise Beyond the Reef they came, they help us a lot. Like we don't have to rush back in the market, so we just stay at home. We do our products. In Tukuraki, our product is painted stone. We used to paint the stones. The Rise Beyond the Reef, they build our houses. When you came up, before you reach the relocation village, you'll see some houses beside the road. That is our houses to the Rise Beyond the Reef who donate to us. They help us a lot. We stay over there. After that, then we'll shift to the new relocation village. From that new relocation village that we are far away from town, the transportation, and I used to say that it's a very rich, fuller place because of the soil, nutrients, and I thank the Rise Beyond the Reef for their supporting us till now. When the COVID-19 hit our country, till now they help us a lot, and they are going for another step forward because we're using the land. From their product, the painted stone has been stopped, and now we are using the land, which we planted different kinds of vegetables and root crops. Firstly, it helps us, the family needs, and the Vanua, the village. And I would like to thank them very much for their supporting our village, and especially the family. Thank you very much.
The next item on the list to plant were vundi trees.
So we're doing it together. What are we doing? We are stepping on the
Stepping on that side of the
vundi tree.
You don't want the water to be collecting the whole tank. It'll drown the crop. Some of these crops are very sensitive to water. They need water, but not too much water.
Sammy,
Yo, hey.
hi. How's it going today?
It is, I think it's a good day.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think we've been planting ever since like in the last hour.
Yeah.
And with all of these women in here, I think we're making good progress. Eh?
What have we done?
Yeah, so today, so far we planted 85 voi, pumpkin was 76, vundi 10, the bananas 11, the ndalonitana is 52, bele 41, kumala 4, watermelon 529, and 22 kavika, and those vetiver grass was 87. So I think it was a good day. You know, everybody really pitched in. So, but the amazing thing is with this big number of women, you know, that's, you know, when we spoke about earlier about Solevaki,
Yeah.
where Solevaki is, like I said, you know, everybody coming together for a greater good beyond just oneself. And then you see the power of Solevaki today. In an hour, we
And
are
all
able.
this. Melons, did you say it was 500 or 200 here?
259.
259.
59, yeah. So they should be ready by Christmas. Yeah, and the idea was, you know, normally when during good times, the women rely heavily on their arts and craft for the Christmas break. But now since the tourism market is down, so we have to adapt. So now we are planting this to be ready in Christmas. Then for Christmas, yeah. So at least, you know, and this is only for Nalata village. So even when it's ready, each household will come and pick, and they go and sell it. Something that they can earn for after Christmas.
And another awesome thing we learnt about was biocharcoal, a nutrient-retaining natural resource that the Rise team introduced to these farmers.
So here, this is something that we've been working on. It's biochar. During Cyclone Winston, we got a machine that is called the airflow carbonization furnace, and this is used to process biomass.
Okay.
It's processing biomass with the absence of oxygen. It's called the pyrolysis process. For biochar, you have to raise the temperature up to 600 degrees.
Yeah.
So the charcoal will have to open up its pores. And what it does is they serve as a storage for nutrients and for moisture. This is part of improving the soil because we farm on the slope. What we will do is we will slowly spreading it into the around in here.
Okay.
So when it rains, they absorb the moisture and hold it in the ground and release it slowly over time. Whatever fertilizers you put in, they also absorb it and release it. We've charged it up. So what we did since last week for 4 days, we've added liquid organic fertilizer.
Oh, to it?
Yeah, to it. So
Let me grab one.
yeah, so when you will have charcoal, but when you charge it up is when you start to add in nutrients. So the organic fertilizers, we soaked it up for the last 4 days, and now it's ready to be put. So they have all the nutrients in here, which they will supply to the crop. That's something new. I think again it goes back to farming in the face of climate change.
Yeah.
Lots of runoff. A lot of the times, people in the communities that farm on hillside, the first rotation of crop you'll see they're big. The second rotation you see a huge drop in the size of the produce. It's because of all of the nutrients being washed out. Now we're keeping this so that they can hold it and store it, and they can be in the soil for a very long time. And we salvage all of this cyclone debris, logging debris, sawmill debris, and process it into charcoal and use it as biochar for the agriculture purposes.
Right.
We cannot afford the heavy inputs of fertilizers, whether it be organic but we will use this. Here they have horse manure, cow manure, and those would be the fertilizers that they will use to charge up the biochar. So they'll bring it over here, they'll spread it, and this will absorb all of the nutrients and hold it. Yeah, it's hard. Farming can be expensive if you want to go in the direction of getting fertilizers, and we don't have the means to buy all of that. So we're using what's around us.
Up next, we hear from the women. One of the largest home-based industries is the artisan sector, as the world wakes up to the power of remote work. Our formal economy is only possible because it's subsidized by women's unpaid work. Remote work can and does work, but it must be formalized, visible and protected.
Women in this community spend from 30 to 70% of their income to pay for the transport, to get their goods from their community to the market. They spend a lot of time waiting in the market to try and sell their product. Buying at Village Gate is critical to these women in terms of them earning income in their Village Gate. They have more time to spend with their family, avoid the risk of being in town for long hours to try and sell their product while they go to the local market. We are building a Creative Commons. For us as Indigenous Fijians, our creativity is rooted in our traditions. And through the design process, we want to bring our past and present into the future. Our culture isn't static, it's always evolving. by facilitating peer-to-peer learning between youth and elders. It's how we seed a movement. It is a continuous thread. It's not just the making of the products. It's the stories, the process, and experiences that come along with it.
I was started weaving when I was in the year 2018. My great-grandmother taught me how to weave when I was 17 years old. I started weaving a baby mat. Now I'm 25. I still know how to weave the mat.
It's really just a strong commitment to wanting to work with rural remote women, primarily Indigenous women in Fiji, and feeling that there's just such an innate value in who they are, their identity, and wanting to support them in every way we can to sort of promote their identity and knowledge, to reinforce that value back to them so they believe in that, and to bring that to the forefront of community development strategies and also into the marketplace.
My name is Lieutenant Tinge. I'm a district coordinator from Yakete. I have 11 village coordinator. The women in our community is a strong women. We've been planting crops, vegetables, and we've been taking them to the market for selling. We really didn't earn that much of money to meet our family needs. It really helped us by training our women and of course our teenage daughters. We've been starting on this empowering project. We've seen that the men are always taking part too. They always come and help with each other on making dolls too. It really helped as husband and wife, like working together. When ladies are making the dolls, they always do the cooking and they come to the community hall with our lunch, tea break that we want. So what we've seen that this has been empowering to both women and men. On the project that we have started on. We're getting closer together, especially within our women, within the village, because so many times we've been going to our farm and we spend whole day out of the house. We hardly communicate. What we've seen that working together, it was really encouraging and even strengthening our community, communicating skills within each other, especially in the village. Earning money too on making dolls was really add up to the income that we always earn on monthly basis. So it's a really life-saving. We receive our orders, so we always work on. There comes the transportation. As we live in this far from town rural area, it'll be very hard for us to call a vehicle to come up and then pick all the products. Expenses, it's really high. So what we always do, we go on horsebacks and then we transport all the products. We have our village coordinator here, from here to another village down. And then they have vehicles that wait from there. So they load the products and then to where it always goes.
Over the years, we've invested a lot in building supply and value chain through these communities that are led by women in our program. The structure that we've invested, that are embedded in the community, have proven to be a reliable structure that we can depend on in disaster recovery and also in pandemic response, and also when we start to jump in from the informal sector to the formal sector to supply product into corporate world or even globally. It is women-led supply chain, and it has really empowered the women in their various community to lead, penetrating the formal sector through the product that they make.
We focus on supporting women and designing products that we call it high touch, low tech. So, designing things that as much as possible they can do in their community so that they can earn as much as possible. And then we bring either their raw materials, some things are already finished, but a lot of things have to be sewn and cut. That comes into our office. And when we have a centralized place to process it, then we have control over order fulfillment. And that's been really important for us to get to that balance point so that we can source, and really scale what the women are able to produce in their communities and what's realistic in their settings of not having, power and not having access to a lot of technologies for production, but still get them earning as much as possible and getting paid at Village Gate. Those have really been sort of our goals.
Mat come from the village, it's handmade. I have to make straight for the production and the sewing people.
Looking back, what I have seen is that the skills of the women have really evolved, and they've also created a culture of production.
I have been working in various garment factories, and working in Rise Beyond The Reef is really challenging. It's really different from what we were doing in the garments. I really feel good working. I feel like it's all our family that I'm working with.
And we're lucky in Fiji, there's a very strong sort of manufacturing industry in urban and peri-urban areas. So bringing in people that know, how to professional cutters and pattern makers and machinists that can help, take the hand-printed fabric and the hand-woven mats and, turn that into products that can be sold, for the tourist market and for export and to be done to scale. Because for us, we want to be able to work with as many women as possible in Fiji.
To learn more about the Ep4 for ACP project, head to www.pacificfarmers.com. Next week, we visit Friend Fiji. We'll see you then.
I think we'll be doing a great favor to our future generations by feeding them healthy options.